I'm going to say something to you. If you can't find an hour a day to talk, you're too busy. And you need to find another area to cut back in, not your marriage. Say no to a friend. Say no to a Zumba class. Is that what they call it? Zumba, whatever it's called. Yoga. I shouldn't even have chosen that word. I don't know what it is. In this first session, we're going to talk about communication. This is from Indestructible Marriage Seminar. It's called Indestructible Communication. Communication is the most important issue in marriage. It's the most important thing that we do in marriage because it transcends everything. We talk about money, we talk about kids, we talk about sex. We know each other through talking. We resolve conflict through talking. Talking is the most important. 86% of people who divorce say they had deficient communication. And so it probably should be 100%. But it virtually precedes almost every major marriage problem. And Karen and I had tremendous problems with this issue early in our marriage. So I love talking about this. Here's why we communicate. Let me talk about just 6 reasons why we communicate, because it's not just monolithic that we talk about one particular thing. First of all, basic information, like dinner's ready. You know, we talk to just inform each other of things. The second is partnership. Because we're partners, because we share needs, we share children, we share responsibilities, because you're my partner, I need to talk to you about the things that we're partnering in. The third is conflict resolution. Now, you'll hear me say this again, but it's no big deal if you fight. The good marriages, they fight. Okay, so the goal of your marriage isn't to fight. The goal of your marriage is to resolve conflict. So you shouldn't be afraid of conflict. Now, if you don't know how to communicate, you probably are afraid of it. And if you came out of a home where your parents divorced, children of divorce fear conflict more because they fear it's going to end the marriage. But it shouldn't. Good marriages have conflict, but conflict resolution is one of the reasons that we communicate. The next is connection, and this is massive. In good marriages, it's easy to connect with each other. Connection happens by a look, it happens by a smile, it happens by physical affection, it happens by words that we speak. But in bad marriages, they can't connect. During the average meal, like if you and your spouse went out to a restaurant, research has proven during the average meal, there will be 100 points of connection between a couple, a healthy couple, during that meal. So we want to connect. We want to connect with each other. And it should be very easy to connect. It shouldn't be difficult. Number 5 is personal information revelation. I want to tell you about my thoughts, my feelings, so on and so forth. And the last is intimate communication. Expressions of love, affection, so on and so forth like that. And so when you have a healthy marriage, you can do all 6. The 5 things that need to be present for you to be able to communicate on all 6 levels. And the first is the right tone. Everything that you say in marriage has to have the right tone. So let me say the same thing 3 ways, okay? And just see if it means something different to you in the way that I'm saying it. So I'm going to say, okay, I understand, I'll do it. Okay. So Karen says something to me and I say, okay, I understand, I'll do it. Karen says something to me and I say, okay, I understand, I'll do it. Karen says something to me, I say, okay, I understand, I'll do it. Does that mean something different? Tone is everything in communication. First of all, tone tells you if I care or not. Let me tell you something. It is impossible to communicate with a person who doesn't care. Have you ever been at a restaurant and you're being waited on by a waiter or waitress and they don't want to wait on you? And you're wanting some more iced tea or you're wanting something and they won't make eye contact, and every time you say, excuse me, like that, and they walk past like that. That's what many marriages are like. You just don't care. Empathy is the feature of all new relationships when you fall in love. Empathy means putting yourself in another person's place. An example, Karen and I, our first date was to Three Dog Night. In 1969, I think it was. And I picked her up in my 1964 Dynamic 88 Oldsmobile, blue. One entire side of my car was wrecked. My mother wrecked, I have 2 older brothers, Damien and Lucifer, and my mother wrecked cars for all 3 of us. And on the day that I started driving, I got her wrecked 1964 Dynamic 88 Oldsmobile, and I worked at Scrub It Up Car Wash. So I washed my car. I cleaned up as good as I could clean up, and I went to pick Karen up, tried to impress her, pulled up on the good side of the car. It was years before she saw the bad side of the car. You know how that is. And I drove so carefully. Because I didn't want to bother her. I didn't want her to be afraid or anything. So I was so careful in the way that I drove, and you fast forward 3 or 4 years later, I drove like a wild man. And she would say, Jimmy, slow down. And I would say, there's nothing wrong with the way I'm driving. You know, the difference was I didn't care. But when you first start dating, everything you say has a little poetry to it. You don't say, well, let's go eat somewhere. You say, darling, what about an evening under the golden arches? Don Juan. You just care. You just care. Well, Karen and I were going on a trip one time, the kids were little, and we were going away for someplace for the weekend, and we were pulling out of the driveway, and she said, now, if you drive fast, I'll be tense when we get there, and I won't be in the mood. It took us 4 hours to go 100 miles. But boy, it was a great night. So, when you're speaking to your spouse, you know if they care or not. You know if they care because of the tone. You know, you just tell. So, Karen and I have been married 45 years. We know each other's tone. And I watch my tone. I know good and well when I'm talking to Karen, it's not just what I'm saying, but the way I'm saying it communicates whether I care or not. The other thing about tone is it's encrypted, whether we realize it or not. The number one need that a man has is respect. Number one. That's our mega need. The number one need that women have is security. So you have to understand when you're talking to a woman, the tone of what you're saying has to communicate to her, you're first. You're not a burden to me. If I need to say no to something else, that's no problem to me, but I won't say no to you. I'll do anything to meet your needs. And so just, what is it that you want? Rather than a tone that says, what do you want? I'm busy watching football. What do you want? And to let her know she's not on your heart, that she is a distraction, and that you're frustrated. So every time you're communicating with a woman, it's not what you're saying, it's the way you're saying it. It has to be encrypted with security, or it's going to make her feel upset and insecure. Not because she's an insecure person, but because she looks to you as a source of security in her life. Now, this is also true of daughters, little girls. When you're talking to a little girl, you have to talk to her the same way. For men, the honor is our number one need. So when you're talking to your husband, the tone of what you're saying to him has to say, I respect you and I believe in you. I believe that you're a good man, and I trust you. And it's not what you're saying, it's the way you're saying it. To a man, the way you say it is as important as what you say. And so this is also true of little boys. Little boys are just little men. And when you're talking to a little boy or son, if you humiliate him or talk down to him, it upsets him. It's going to be hard to communicate. So when we're communicating, the number one thing when you're communicating is watching your tone and making sure of 2 things. You know I care, and I'm encrypting this in your language. You don't need what I need. I don't need what you need, but I'm making sure that I'm talking to you in your language. I'm saying just that point right there will help you to communicate. Number 2 element in good communication is enough time. This is a huge thing, obviously, is enough time. And I'm going to be very specific about this. So I want to talk about 3 different types of communication and the time that goes with it. The first is proactive communication time. Okay, in 3 to 5 days a year, proactively communicating. Proactive means in advance, rather than being reactive. Many couples just react in life. Having a budget means we're going to make financial decisions proactively. And what it does is it means we're not just going to react to money problems all the time. We're not going to react. We're going to be proactive about it. Tremendously helps. In the relationship. But we learned about 30 years ago how to do vision retreats. A friend of mine taught me how to do vision retreats. So Karen and I, for many years, have done vision retreats, and that is we go away 3 or 4 or 5 days. In the mornings, we wake up and we pray and talk. The mornings are all about praying and talking. We submit every area of our marriage to God. The vision retreat begins, because it can't be a headbutting session. It's not a time where we're trying to win or persuade. It's a time that we're praying and talking about every area of our marriage, and we know that we have God's vision when we agree. That's how we know. And so there's an openness of sharing. You're not going to pay a price for disagreeing with me. You're not going to pay a price for sharing your opinion or how you feel. But Karen and I, when we did our first vision retreat, it was 30 years ago or so, and we had a good marriage, but we fought the most about my schedule, because I was very busy, and Karen didn't feel like a partner in my schedule, and she wasn't. We fought about kids. Our kids were teenagers, and we fought about money. Those were the 3 areas of tension. So we came together, and by the way, the pastor who taught me how to do vision retreats had 5 children, and every year they prayed individually for every child. Individually. When the Bible says train up a child in the way he should go, and when he gets won't depart from it. That means 2 things. Train them up in the ways of God, and that means train them to be who they are, not who their brother is. If you've got a mathematician on your hands and you're treating him like he's a quarterback, you're going to have problems. And so, what is it? Why did God create that child? And the vision retreat, when Karen and I went on it, we prayed for Julie and Brent individually. We prayed for every area of our marriage, and we went to another level. 3 to 5 days a year. Let me say this. Would you rather take, and don't take your kids. Do not take your children on a vision retreat. You talk and pray until noon. You write down whatever you believe that God is saying. The rest of the day is about having fun. And if you're fighting, just say, okay, hey, let's come back to the fight tomorrow morning. And we're going to go have fun the rest of the day. Okay, just put your fight on hold. You actually can do that. And how do I know? I don't know. Someone told me. But So well, let me ask you a question. Would you like to take 3 or 4 or 5 days a year and have peace for the rest of the year? Or would you rather save those days and fight the rest of the year? Vision retreat will transform your marriage. Proactive communication time. The next is personal communication time, an hour a day. This takes an hour a day. And personal communication time is we're talking, we're catching up. I'm telling you about my day. You're telling me about your day. Kids, whatever it is. Now, let me say something about this. Technology free. Technology is a wonderful servant. It's a terrible master. If you can't turn your phone off and your computer off, it's controlling you, and it'll ruin your marriage. You know, there was a time when Karen and I started dating, you could actually be alone with a person. Isn't that a foreign concept? That you could actually be alone. Today, we have billions of people with us wherever we go. We're too connected. We're too connected. And our children are too connected. And what you have to do when you're communicating is turn your phone off or don't answer it. Just put it away. Turn your computer off. Don't be on the computer. Now, you can talk sometimes when you have your phone around stuff. I'm talking about face-to-face quality time, an hour a day when you're going to talk. Now, Karen and I, when the weather's good, we'll sit on our back porch. We love to sit on the back porch and talk. And I know Karen's finished talking because she gets up and leaves. And I've learned what that means. And my commitment is to talk to her as long as she needs to talk. But walking in the mornings, just make it a habit. Walking in the mornings, just finding a time in the evenings when the kids are in bed, whatever your best time is. But I'm going to say something to you. If you can't find an hour a day to talk, you're too busy. And you need to find another area to cut back in, not your marriage.